I thought I knew the night well. After years of working alone, I believed nothing could surprise me anymore. I was wrong. Some things lurk in the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. And trust me, once they do, there's no turning back. What happened to me in that old bar still haunts me, and the worst part, I know I'm not the only one. My name is Emily, I'm 27 years old, and for just over 3 years now, I've been working the night shift at an old bar on the outskirts of Phoenix. It's one of those places frozen in time, where the walls hold more secrets than anyone could imagine. If you love horror stories, subscribe and hit the bell, because this story, you won't be able to forget it. The bar is called The Red Shadow, a modest spot, with dim lights and creaky tables that groan every time someone sits down. The customers are always the same. Older men who drink quietly, truck drivers stopping before hitting the road again, and occasionally some lost soul looking for company or just a strong drink. What I always liked about working here was the routine. It was predictable, almost dull, and that gave me peace. Nothing out of the ordinary ever happened, or at least that's what I thought. During the week, I worked alone. No co-workers, no one to keep me company. Just me, the bottles, and the sound of the old jukebox that had been playing the same list of classic rock songs for years. Some nights the silence was so deep you could hear the bar's clocks ticking away the seconds, or so I thought, because one of those clocks, the biggest one, always did something strange. Right at 3 in the morning it would stop, no matter how much I wound it or how many times I changed the batteries. At exactly 3, the hands would freeze. Over time, I stopped paying attention to it. I thought it was just one of those quirky, meaningless things, until I started noticing other things, little details that at first seemed like simple coincidences, like the shadows that sometimes danced on the walls, even when I was alone, or the creaking wood, as if someone was walking behind the bar. One night, while closing early because there were barely any customers, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. In the mirror at the back, the one I cleaned every night, I saw for a second a reflection that wasn't mine. I thought I was losing my mind, but from that day on, I knew something was about to change. After that night with the mirror, I promised myself I wouldn't dwell on it. It was just exhaustion, I told myself, a trick of my tired mind. But the calm didn't last long. A few uneventful days passed. The usual customers, muffled laughs, and the same old music echoing like a ghost from the past. Until he arrived. It was Tuesday, a little after 1 in the morning. The bar was empty, except for a couple of regulars drinking in silence. Then, the door opened with a soft creak, and a man I had never seen before stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was his presence. Tall, lean, with an air of authority that filled the room without him needing to say a word. He wore a black turtleneck sweater and a long, dark coat, perfectly tailored to his frame. His hair was neatly combed, and his face, though weathered by time, had something I couldn't quite define. It wasn't beauty, it was power. He walked confidently and sat right in the middle of the bar, ignoring the empty tables. His posture was flawless, as if every movement was deliberate. I approached him, both curious and cautious, and he barely glanced at the bottles behind me before asking for the most expensive drink we had. As I served him, he gave me a polite smile, one of those that seem sincere but leave you uncertain. "Do you enjoy working here?" he asked, his voice calm, almost melodic. There was nothing odd about the question. Many liked to chat with the bartender. So, I told him yes, that it was a good job, simple, and that nights were usually quiet. He nodded, as if he had expected that answer. "You're young, you could be doing something bigger," he added, letting the words hang in the air. I chuckled a little, brushing it off. Sometimes people just talk, but something in his gaze made me uncomfortable, though I couldn't explain why. I stayed silent while he drank, and then something caught my attention. The clock, the big one, the one that always stopped. It was frozen again, 3 hours on the dot. I swallowed hard, glancing at the mirror behind him. No one else was reflected, just the two of us. But I felt a tightness in my chest, like the air had gotten heavier. He finished his drink in one gulp and pulled out a bill. It wasn't a regular payment. He laid down $200, perfectly folded, and without another word, stood up and left. I watched him walk through the door, vanishing into the night. But when I looked at the mirror again for a moment, his reflection was still there, watching me. I thought I wouldn't see him again. That night had just been a strange story to tell, but I was wrong. A week later, as the early hours of the morning draped over the city like a heavy blanket, he came back. Only this time he wasn't alone. It was Thursday, just past midnight. I was cleaning the tables when the door opened again. First, he walked in, dressed the same, immaculate, with that gaze that seemed to study everything. But what really unsettled me was the woman with him. She was younger, maybe in her early 30s. Her hair was dyed a chestnut color that clashed with her pale skin, and she wore clothes that tried to be trendy, but something about her style felt off. It was like she was trying too hard to be someone she wasn't. They both sat together at the bar, right in the same spot he had chosen before. I approached cautiously, trying to stay calm, though my heart was beating faster than usual. Before I could greet them, the woman spoke first, smiling in a way that made my skin crawl. "You're so pretty," she said, her fingers brushing my arm, lingering just a second too long. I didn't know what to say. I laughed nervously and thanked her, but something inside me was screaming that something was wrong. I asked for their order, trying to keep the conversation short, but she wouldn't stop staring at me like she was studying me. They ordered 2 drinks, the most expensive ones, without hesitation. As I served them, they started asking questions that at first seemed normal. How long I'd been working there, if I ever got bored, if I ever thought about doing something different. I gave short answers, trying not to share too much. But then the woman leaned in and lowered her voice, as if she was about to share a big secret. "Look, I run a very exclusive club," she whispered. "We organize private events. We're always looking for girls like you. Young, friendly, discreet. You could make $5,000 in a single weekend. Everything safe, everything clean." I froze. What kind of offer was that? I tried to laugh it off, pretending I didn't take it seriously. I told her it sounded too good to be true, but she didn't lose her smile, not even for a second. "It's real," she insisted. "Several girls from around here already work with us. They're doing really well. You could be one of them." And that's when something in her eyes changed. A coldness, a determination that made me mentally step back. "Come, just a minute outside. There's someone who can explain it better," she said, nodding toward the door. At that moment, I felt I had to decide, but something told me I shouldn't move from that spot. I don't know where I found the strength, but I refused. Not politely, not with a forced smile. I simply said, "No, I'm fine. Thanks." My voice came out firm, without a tremor. She pursed her lips slightly, as if she wasn't used to hearing no. For a brief moment, her perfect smile faltered, revealing an expression that chilled me to the bone. But just then, a group of customers came in, laughing loudly, filling the bar with noise and life. The woman looked at the man beside her, and without another word, they both stood and left. I watched them walk out through the same door they had entered, and I couldn't help but feel an immediate sense of relief, as if I had narrowly escaped something, even though I wasn't sure what. That night, while I was closing up, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. What kind of club was that? Why were they so eager for me to step outside? And most importantly, what would have happened if I had gone with them? I tried to sleep, but rest didn't come easily. The woman's words echoed in my head over and over. Everything safe, everything clean. But there was something filthy, something dark behind all of it. A couple of days passed, and I tried to convince myself it was over. I told my co-workers what had happened, and my boss, Mr. Julian, assured me that if they came back, he'd be close by, just a few minutes away. Plus, the security cameras were working, and that should have been enough. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. But peace didn't last. It was a Wednesday, near the end of my shift. The bar was empty, and I was cleaning the counter as usual. Outside, the street looked deserted, only the streetlights casting their glow into the darkness. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and headed to my car. That's when I saw it. A car parked across the street, engine off, windows dark. At first, it didn't seem strange. Phoenix is full of cars like that, waiting for someone, just idling. But as I approached my car, I felt something, a gaze, that sharp sensation at the back of your neck that tells you you're not alone. I got in quickly, locked the doors and started the engine. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rear-view mirror. The car started too. My heart began to pound. I pressed the gas a little more, turned onto a side street. The car followed. Every turn, every light, it was there. Not too close, but never far. I didn't know what to do until I saw it, the police station. Without a second thought, I swerved and pulled into the lot. The car behind me braked hard, then drove off, vanishing into the shadows. When I got home, still shaking, I found a note under my door. You chose the longer path. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that paper, those words printed in black ink burning into my mind. You chose the longer path. What did that mean? Was it a threat? A warning? I lay down, but sleep came heavy. And when I finally gave in to exhaustion, it was anything but restful. I dreamed I was in the bar, but it wasn't the same. The lights were off, and only a faint red glow came from the jukebox, casting eerie shadows that crept along the walls. I was behind the counter, hearing footsteps. My own breath echoed off the empty bottles. Then, a song began to play. It wasn't one I knew. A slow tune, almost a lament, with a woman's voice whispering words in a language I couldn't understand. I moved closer to the jukebox, but I couldn't see the track number. It was blurred, like I wasn't meant to know. I turned around, and there she was, Rebecca, standing across the bar, staring at me without blinking. Her skin was even paler, and her lips moved, but no sound came out. Only the music filled the air. Behind her, the mirror. And in the reflection, a dark figure, taller, more menacing, seemed to move toward me. I woke up abruptly, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. It was still early morning, but I felt the urge to go to the bar to make sure everything was okay. I arrived before my shift, with the sun barely rising. I went in, turned on the lights, and everything was in place. I took a deep breath, relieved, until I heard the music, the same melody from the dream, soft, barely audible, coming from the jukebox. I walked toward it slowly, as if each step grew heavier. The machine was on, showing a track without a number, just like in the nightmare. "What the hell?" I whispered, my voice shaking. I unplugged the jukebox, but the chill had already settled in my bones. I checked the whole place, but it was empty, or so I wanted to believe. The rest of the shift was torture. Every customer who came in, every shadow that moved, made me jump. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. How could I explain something like that without sounding insane? But I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I knew the song, the figure in the mirror, the clock. It was all connected. I just didn't understand how. Then I remembered something. The clock. I looked at the time. 3, as always. Only this time it hadn't stopped. No, this time the second hand was moving backwards. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, that the dreams and the music were just coincidences. But deep down, I knew something else was happening, something I couldn't explain. The week passed in a strange state of constant alert. Every night I looked out the bar's window, searching for that car, those figures, but they didn't appear. For a moment, I thought maybe they had given up, that they had left me alone. Until she came back. It was a slow night. One of those where you think about closing early. The street was empty, the air cold. The clock showed 2:30, and I was cleaning the counter, wishing the hours would pass faster. Then the door creaked. I felt the chill before I even turned around. Rebecca was there, alone. Her figure seemed even thinner, like something was eating her from the inside. But her smile, that smile was still intact, as if not a single day had passed. My first instinct was to grab my phone. I unlocked it with trembling hands and sent a message to Mr. Julian, begging him to come as soon as possible. I couldn't face her alone. I looked up and there she was, sitting in front of me, hands clasped on the counter, watching me with terrifying calm. "I thought I'd drop by," she said, as if we were old friends. I swallowed hard. "We're about to close," I replied, my voice as firm as I could manage. "I can't serve you tonight." She tilted her head, looking disappointed. "I just wanted one last drink. An old classic, nothing more." I hesitated. If I kicked her out, she might do something worse. If I served her, maybe I could buy some time. I nodded, turning to make a cocktail. I tried to keep my mind clear, but every second I felt my skin burning, like 1,000 invisible eyes were watching me. That's when I heard it. A faint metallic thud coming from the back. My body tensed. That wasn't a normal sound. It wasn't the wind. Someone was there. I turned quickly. The chair where Rebecca had been sitting was empty. I ran to the front door and locked it. My breathing was ragged, my heart pounding in my chest. The pounding on the back door grew louder. There was nowhere to hide, no way out. I grabbed the first thing I could, a heavy bottle, and held it tightly. I wasn't going down without a fight. But in the midst of the silence, I saw something through the glass at the entrance. A vehicle. The headlights lit up the street. It was Mr. Julian. And just then, the pounding stopped. I didn't dare move. The banging on the back door had stopped, but the echo of those sounds still rang in my ears. Outside, the lights from Mr. Julian's car remained on, a small glimmer of hope in the darkness. I slowly approached the entrance, making sure everything was securely locked. The door showed no signs of forced entry, but fear was already rooted deep in my body, in every fiber. That's when I felt it, a whisper. At first I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but there it was, a soft voice, barely audible, seeming to come from the very walls of the bar. "Emily," it said, my name. I spun around, searching for the source, but no one was there. Only the ticking of the clock, insistently marking time. I approached the counter, trembling, and then I noticed the bottle I had left on the floor was shattered, as if someone had crushed it. When had that happened? How? The lights flickered for a moment, and the jukebox made a sharp, crackling sound. No music, no glow, just that dry noise that made me step back instinctively. "Emily," the voice again, now closer. I swallowed hard. No, I couldn't lose my mind. I couldn't. I ran toward the back, making sure every door was locked. But when I got there, the air had changed. It was thicker, colder, the mirror. From afar, behind the bar, I saw it. No one stood in front of it, yet a figure was etched on its surface. Tall, dark, formless. The same one from my dream. The same that had hidden behind Rebecca. I froze, unable to move, as the reflection shifted, not toward me, but toward the exit. Toward the door Mr. Julian had walked through seconds earlier. I ran after him, stumbling over chairs, screaming his name. I reached him just as he opened the door. "There's no one!" he shouted, confused, looking around. "They were here. They were banging on the door. The woman, Rebecca, she vanished." He looked at me, disbelief in his eyes. His hand on my shoulder was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. "Calm down, Emily, it's over now." But I knew it wasn't. Something was still there. Something hadn't left. And as I tried to explain, I glanced at the clock one last time. 3 hours. Again. Always the same hour. Mr. Julian led me to one of the tables, handed me some water and tried to calm me down, but my hands kept shaking, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that reflection, that silhouette that couldn't be real. "What exactly did you see?" he asked, serious, but with a shadow of concern in his voice. I told him everything, from Rebecca coming back alone to the pounding on the door and the voices calling my name. I didn't leave anything out, not even the detail about the mirror and the dark figure. He listened in silence, then nodded. "Let's check the cameras," he said. We went together to the small room where we kept the security monitor. Mr. Julian knew how to use it better than I did. He rewound the footage until he found the exact moment Rebecca entered. There she was, clear as day, smiling, talking to me. But something was wrong, very wrong. The video showed that I never served her. I didn't even make her drink. In the footage, I was just standing there, frozen in front of her, as if trapped in a meaningless conversation. but I remembered every detail, how I turned, how I heard the banging. "Look at that," Mr. Julian whispered, pointing at the screen. In the corner of the video, near the back door, two masked men were moving cautiously. One was banging, the other was peeking inside, searching for something. These weren't ghosts, they were real, and they had been there. My heart skipped a beat. But then something else appeared. In the mirror's reflection just behind me, a third figure. Tall, faceless, undefined, but clearly visible. It wasn't in the bar, not physically, only in the mirror. Who is that?" I asked, unable to look away. Mr. Julian grimaced as if he'd seen something he didn't want to remember. "I've seen that before." I turned to him, confused. "Many years ago," he began quietly, "when I had just opened this place, there was another girl who worked the night shift. Her name was Lucy. One night she disappeared. The police found no traces, no camera footage, nothing. But before she vanished, she told me she saw things in that mirror. Shadows, faces. I didn't believe her. A chill ran down my spine." "What happened to her?" Mr. Julian shook his head. "She was never found." We looked back at the screen. The men fled before he arrived, but the figure in the mirror remained for a few seconds more, until it faded. "Emily, I don't think this is just a robbery attempt. There's something more, something that's been here for a long time." And I knew he was right, because from that night on, the mirror never let me rest. The days that followed were the longest of my life. Even though Mr. Julian assured me I wouldn't work alone anymore, that someone would always be with me during the nights, I couldn't shake what we had seen. The images, the men, the figure, it all replayed in my mind like a broken record. I tried to move on, convince myself it was over, that the danger had passed. But the truth was, every night I felt something watching me from the bar's shadows, something that hadn't left. Mr. Julian told me more about Lucy. He said she had also encountered strange people who offered her better jobs outside the bar, that she too had received notes, cryptic messages, and that, like me, she felt something was following her. What froze my blood was learning that the police never found clues, not even proof that she had left of her own free will. She simply vanished. I started asking other long-time employees. Some knew little, others avoided the subject. But one of them, Luis, a waiter who had been there for over a decade, told me something I'll never forget. "You're not the first," he said softly, looking around as if afraid someone might hear. "Over the years, several girls have had problems here. Not all disappeared, but some left without saying a word, from one day to the next. Always the same. Strange offers, men and women no one knew. And that mirror, that damned mirror." I begged him to explain, but he refused to say more. That night, after closing, I was alone for a few minutes. I gathered my courage and walked up to the mirror. I stared at it, searching for something, anything. My reflection was there. Nothing strange, nothing out of place, until the lights flickered. For an instant I saw something behind me, not a clear figure, just a moving shadow inching closer. I spun around quickly, but no one was there. I ran to the exit, heart pounding in my throat, and as I passed by the jukebox, it turned on by itself, playing the same melody from my dream, the same one. I shut everything off, left, and didn't look back. Since then, I've avoided that mirror. I asked Mr. Julian to cover it, to remove it if possible, but when he looked at me, he just said, "That mirror was here before us. We can't remove it, no one can." And that's when I knew this mystery had no end. Since that night, nothing has been the same. I stopped working alone, yes, but that didn't change the constant feeling of being watched. During the day, the bar seemed normal. Customers, laughter, background music. But when night fell, the atmosphere turned heavy, as if the very walls breathed a different air. The mirror stayed covered, but sometimes, as I passed by, a shiver ran down my spine, as if something on the other side still tried to see me. I tried to move on, to forget everything, but there were details I couldn't ignore. Every night, without fail, the bar's big clock stopped exactly at 3. No matter how many times Mr. Julian replaced it with a new one, it was always the same. At that hour, time simply ceased to move. The jukebox also started to act up. It turned on by itself at random times, playing fragments of that song I had heard in my dreams. None of the technicians who came could explain why. I thought about quitting, moving away, starting over somewhere new, but something kept me here, like this chapter of my life wasn't over yet. One early morning, while cleaning one of the tables, I noticed something that made me stop. On one of the windows, fogged up by the cold, a name was written with a finger. Rebecca! I didn't know how it got there. No one else was around. The bar was empty, and I hadn't written it. I rushed over, wiped the glass clean, and ran to lock all the doors. That night I slept with the lights on, hoping there wouldn't be more signs. But when I woke, I found a sheet of paper under my door. It wasn't like the others. No threats. Just a simple phrase. We'll see each other soon. That's when I knew this wasn't over. Maybe it never would be. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I had gone with Rebecca that night. If I had followed her steps, accepted her offer. Maybe I would have vanished like Lucy, like so many others. Or maybe I would have only sped up the inevitable, because every time I close my eyes, every time the bar falls silent, I hear that voice. My name, whispered from somewhere I cannot see. And every night when 3:00 comes, I feel time stop, not just on the clock, but inside me, and I know that one day that figure in the mirror won't just be a reflection. It will be real, and it will come for me.